What's happening, you snot-nosed brats? My name is KotyTang. Back to where we left off, with Sonic and Thorn getting into a dispute. Thorn knocks the wind out of Sonic, leading him to a flashback with Amy and the rest of the original gang. In the flashback, Amy leads Sonic to what I assume is supposed to be what the Great Green is based off of. It's just a sentimental scene, and after the flashback ends, Thorn continues attacking Sonic, and apparently the shard lets her do this. Thorn begins blocking all of the entryways into the jungle, which are just the open patches where light gets in. So really, anybody could just climb down like they always do. Sonic attempts to reason with Thorn, and she completely denies the offer, wanting to use her new power to kill the tree gang. Thorn traps Sonic in a wood prism instead of killing him, because he's the main character, so that she can go kill the tree gang. Sonic just escapes by using the claws in his gloves to climb his way out of the tree prism, and is able to quickly catch up to Thorn to stop her from her murder spree. During the scuffle between the two, Thorn begins launching pillars that reach over the top of the tree line. These pillars are heading straight for the tree gang's village. After multiple failed attempts to grab the shard, because Sonic is just too slow now apparently, Thorn launches Sonic out of the jungle and he reunites with the tree gang, who now believe that Sonic has betrayed them. Sonic is able to convince them that he's on their side still, and tries to warn them about Thorn. We learn that the tree gang and Thorn used to all be friends. However, the tree gang constantly overused, disrespected, and wasted the resources of the jungle, which angered Thorn into attacking them, and forced the tree gang out of the jungle. Prim twists the story into the tree gang taking only what they needed, but the flashback shows the exact opposite. Either way, the tree gang never wants to work with Thorn again. Sonic still tries to convince the gang to make peace with Thorn, but that convincing quickly comes to a halt as Thorn is now launching pillar vines at the tree village. The gang agree to listen to Sonic and they all rush down to the jungle through the leaves. Just like I said earlier, there's nothing stopping them from just going through the leaves. They don't need open patches to jump down. Thorn greets the gang and Sonic attempts to reason with Thorn. The moment that Sonic finally gets Thorn to calm down, the tree gang attacks, essentially betraying Sonic. And now Sonic and the tree gang begin fighting Thorn, but it immediately just becomes Sonic fighting Thorn as the tree gang just watch. Thorn seals the final obvious entry into the jungle and she says that her work is now done. Even though she just watched everybody run through the trees, she acts like the jungle is somehow sealed now. But the only real way to stop anybody from coming in would be to kill them. Sonic remembers what Amy once said about memories and friendship, so Sonic tries to explain the emotions of an Amy that comes from a different dimension to Thorn. And of course, she doesn't want to listen again. So Sonic runs to the Great Green. Thorn arrives and Sonic forces Thorn to attack him. Sonic is able to break a clearing around the Great Green, and Thorn, for some reason, she just kind of gives up. She goes into how she remembers everybody being friends and talks about how angry she was at everybody for taking the resources of the jungle. So she cries, and then everybody feels bad because they didn't realize they were abusing the jungle. The sunlight gives life back to the Great Green, and Sonic teaches Mango to fly by just being like, spin your tails. And so he does. Thorn and the tree gang once again become friends. Sonic runs away to find where the shard landed, and Shadow briefly is able to speak to Sonic, telling him that he's been lost in the void. But that doesn't matter because Sonic is able to reach the shard and it teleports him back to New York City. However, the place is now in the midst of a war between the Resistance and the Chaos Council, thus ending the episode. So let's discuss these two episodes really quick. This is the first time that we really get to see how deep that these dimensions can go, which is great. There's a lot of variety that can happen, and these dimensions can essentially go in whatever direction the writers can think of. I don't know how many dimensions they plan to create, but if the concept art is anything to go by, there are only 3 dimensions. Those are the city, the jungle, and then the pirates. So what I assume is going to happen, or at least what needs to happen, is that these 3 dimensions are going to start collapsing into each other and mingling, especially the closer that the Paradox Prism gets to being put together. The storyline that we experience in episode 4 and 5 is fine, I suppose. What I don't like about it is the fact that Amy and the Tree Gang are these primitive, unreasonable characters, and they just act extremely stupid for both episodes. Literally, no matter what, these two are constantly at odds with each other, and even when there's nothing to even be fighting about, they find some way to make it that way. I can see where Thorn is coming from, especially after witnessing Gnarly literally rip trees out of the ground for absolutely no reason at all, as well as the constant digging that everybody does. But why is Thorn viewing herself as this jungle manager? She's overseeing everybody just picking the jungle clean, and because she feels like she needs to defend it, she spends her time knocking the crap out of the Tree Gang. I don't really understand if Thorn was always at the jungle before the Tree Gang, and the Tree Gang just came after when they needed food, or if they all started at the jungle with her and just had a disagreement. The scope of how pointless these 2 episodes seems comes at the end, when all it takes for anybody to not fight is for Thorn to stop being a rampaging psychopath. The very moment that Thorn just says, "Guys, I was hurt that you kept taking more than what you needed in the jungle," everybody is just like, "Wow, I didn't really know that we were doing that. Our bad." And then it's all better at that point. It's such a fragile story to really cling on to, or even present to the audience, because the entire thing just feels pointless. These 2 episodes are definitely so far the weakest parts of Sonic Prime. I think the reason that Eggman isn't even involved in this dimension is because that's essentially what Eggman used to do. Steal the resources of the wildlife and abuse them. But when Eggman did it, it made perfect sense why everybody would be freaking out, and it was so obvious that he was a bad guy. This is literally just a misunderstanding that has gone on for God knows how long. I don't think this was a very strong 4th and 5th episode. The stakes are minuscule, the conflict is so fragile that it's fixed by the characters just saying sorry to each other, and it really doesn't tie into any plotline we've been presented so far except for Sonic getting the shard. This is a side story at best, and it isn't fleshed out enough to hold any weight toward the narrative. I'm sure that when Sonic ever returns here, the cast will remember him and thank him, but it still falls very shallow in the grand scheme of things. And if the Tree Gang just goes back to fighting with Thorn, then both these episodes will feel like a major waste of time. This kinda has me concerned for how they'll be dealing with other dimensions going forward. New York is clearly the major dimension here, and a much more compelling story would have literally been if New York leaked into the jungle dimension and started messing with the jungle themselves, rather than the Tree Gang and Thorn being caught up in a childish drama that Sonic has to figure out. The best case scenario going forward would be for New York City's dimension to start mingling and ruining other dimensions. Otherwise, the story is going to be going nowhere. That's all the time I've got for you guys. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment below about your thoughts on the episode, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.